Welcome to All the Way Up podcast by Jeffrey Mensah. This is the Bar and Beyond series, a platform where we host insightful conversations that push growth, drive ambition, and shape perspectives of young lawyers. Hi, lovely viewers and listeners. You're warmly welcome to another episode of the All the Way Up podcast by Jeffrey Mensah. We're shooting here at the Dao restaurant, home of delicious, sumptuous meals. And now to my special guest for today. And she's a great woman by all standards. And at this point, I'll just express my gratitude for her making time to be here. It promises to be a very insightful conversation. And she happens to be the Associate General Counsel of Tullow PLC. She's the person of Mrs. Hannah Agbozo. Auntie Hannah, thank you so much for making time to be here.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Yes.
It's my pleasure.
Yes.
I mean, this has been a long time coming.
Exactly.
Hasn't it?
Exactly. I just
talking
recall
about this for some time.
Exactly. I recall seeing your email confirming this conversation, and I remember how glad I was because I've been chasing you for a while now. And so I'm just glad that today we finally get to sit across each other and have this conversation.
It is my real pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. And so Auntie Hannah, we'll kickstart the conversation with a matter bordering on faith. Mm-hmm. All right. I happened to chance upon a sermon of yours, a sermon you preached, and it was on the theme, do you believe these things?
Yeah.
And amongst the things you mentioned, you touched on, was a quote by a missionary,
yes.
Jim Elliot.
Yes.
And at a point, he apologizes. He throws out a general apology and says, forgive me for being an ordinary person.
Yeah.
Whilst
and I
claiming
claim to serve an extraordinary
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think you touched on that to buttress the point of a faith deficiency amongst Christians of our generation. Yeah. And I just felt it was so interesting because we read about the greats of the past and how manifestly they showed forth the power of God. Yeah. And how we didn't seem to have that in our day.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask, what has your journey been like?
Yeah.
Trying to build that faith.
Well, I think it's excellent that we start from this, the subject of faith. After all, it's the source of all things.
Exactly. To be our opening prayer.
It's a good place to start. I do get opportunities once in a while in my church to preach or share the word of God, and I attend a Church of Pentecost. To use the words of my sister, I'm a Pentecost girl.
Okay.
And usually this will be stuff that will come out of my own reflections and my own, secret place yearning and prayer and groaning to do more. To glorify God more, in my own Christian life. And I've been grateful to God that periodically I get the opportunity to share some of these things that would have been things that have come to me in my own secret place of prayer. And I think that someone you mentioned, and quite a number of people have reached out to me on that, was one of those that I had just come to that place where you think there must be more to this, to us than this, And if you look at how very ordinary we have become, sometimes, it's not everyone, when I talk like this, I'm always reminded of Elijah's episode when he was telling God, everybody has followed Baal, and I'm the only one standing for you. And the Lord said, no, I've got people who have not bowed their knees to Baal, have preserved people for you. So we always need to be mindful of that God is able to sustain his people. But clearly, as we said, there really was a time when, being a Christian counted for much. It stood for demonstration of the power of God. It stood for a demonstration of power and influence in society. The whole movement of abolition of slavery was led by people, ecumenical, evangelical people who understood that being men and women of faith was not just being in the temple, but also going out and making a difference to their society. And I just thought, if we want to be able to do more and win our world for Christ, we should start seeing those things come back. And we should start seeing ourselves as that. And the sense I feel felt was, it was almost as if the God then is different from the God now.
Exactly.
And we can't be all that those apostles and all the men of faith talked about in Hebrews 11 were.
Yeah.
And I felt, so that was what really was resonating in my heart, and what I wanted to share, that guys, let's rise up. We serve a mighty God, and He's able to do those things that He did previously through us. If we say He doesn't change, then what are we talking about? Then we are looking so puny these days.
Exactly.
That was really the drive. And I really believe that the power of God is available to us. And maybe we haven't taken the time to seek Him more. The distractions are plenty, honestly, in our world. But if we do seek Him, and I always say, in my church, one of my favorite verses in the Bible is that God is a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. I absolutely believe that. Even those who are not in the Christian faith, who really desire to see God, wherever they find themselves, find God. He reveals Himself to them, and they come to know Him as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the Christian God that we know.
That's wonderful, Auntie Hannah. I have a follow-up. I mean, in your response, you touched on there being lots of distractions in our time, all right? And the need for us to invest time really in seeking God, because He's a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. Now, picking someone like yourself, all right, you've risen to an admirable point or level in your career, all right? Associate General Counsel of Tullow PLC. It's a big post, all right?
Head of legal of Tullow Ghana. Let's put it that way.
Still a big post. And I know rising to that level comes with its demands on your time. Obviously, you need to put in the work, all right? Alongside, you also need to build faith. You need to make time for matters that will help build your faith. What has your journey been like trying to strike that balance, develop faith, as well as pursue laurels in your career?
I would answer this by saying that, as we say, it's a very big saying we have, that it takes a village, right? It takes a village to do all things. By all means, it took the grace of God. And I did have my family to support. And my family here, I'll talk about my mom, my big brother, my husband in particular, of course, the whole family. But these three stand out very much in building both my faith and my career. And of course, various people that have met in my life, my teachers. And my teachers, these are teachers in school, teachers in career, in the law, and the very, very capable and learned Kojo Bentienchil of blessed memory. These were the people who trained and taught us. And I'm always, always grateful that, I had these people in my life. And so it has taken a combination of all of them. I mean, I have a family, I'm married, I have 4 children, and ranging from ages between 19 and almost 11. And people ask, how did you do it? And I'm like, actually, it's not just me. And I keep telling people, I now realize a prayer that we all don't pray, that we need to learn to pray, to ask God, bring me my help. I listened to Apostle Selman and Bit, and it's a big point that he keeps reiterating in a lot of his sermons. Getting what he puts them as your destiny helpers. But my eyes were open to that when I was reading some part, and I think 1 Samuel or 2 Samuel, when God talked each time about David getting anointed and Saul, the Bible then continues to say, and God touched the hearts of, I think in the case of Saul, 300 men or so who followed him, David as well. And we need to get to know that whenever God calls us to a point, He always puts people around. We should ask God to help us to see those people whose hearts He starts to help us reach our destination. And so for me, when it comes to career, honestly, I didn't even start out planning to be a lawyer. I really, I'm a co, really. I mean, people don't know. My mom and my father is Ashanti. My mom is co. Yeah, so we do business,
Business to the core.
My boss, Mr. Divine Kokulecha, who is one of the founding partners of Bentienchil, where I trained, used to tease me, like, when he really wanted to tease me, like, Konya out your office.
You should be out there doing the business and then pushing the goods.
Doing business. So really, I mean, as far as I'm going to be in school, but I wasn't going to stray away from the blueprints. It was going to be business. So O-level, I actually did business. A-level too as well. Actually stopped accounting because at some point I got guidance that you didn't need accounting to get to the school of admin.
Okay.
Get something and get a good grade, and the good grade rather get you to the school. So I dropped accounting second term in my A-levels and replaced it with religious studies, and did get a very good grade and could have actually gone to the School of Administration. But my teacher, talking about people, my SU patron, who is now passed, late Mr. Amanonto, he became a Reverend Minister of the Assemblies of God.
Okay.
He had left the secondary school and gone to Lagos to pursue his master's. And I heard that Mr. Amanonto was looking for me. I went to see him. He said, trust a teacher that I trust, really. And he said, Hannah, you know, I have observed you and looking at the skills, your capacity in English and all this. Have you considered reading law? Honestly, Jeffrey, law was not even in my horizon. I didn't even know what that was about. But hey, my teacher has called me and said that law is an option. So immediately when I was filling the forms, I chose law. Contrary to all the discussions I had with my family
and your roots as well.
To do. And that, as they say, the rest is history. I got selected for law, managed, by God's grace to excel, and, that's where I am now. So really, my legal career really started by my teacher, observing my potential and my skills, where he thought my strengths were, calling me and advising me. And it's been like that. My secondary school teacher, Mr. Opari as well, called me and said, I believe you will do excellently, but your summary, and I'm sure I might be talking too much, I think we need to work on your summary. So Mr. Opari used to organize every weekend. I'll go
special
to his
classes,
house, and he'll put me in his hall, give me passages, and I'm supposed to summarize.
Wow.
Just do, because he thought that summary area was the only thing that could detract me from getting a grade one in my O-levels. And then I aced it, He's also passed, but thankfully I managed to keep in touch with him. And so these are the people God put along your pathway to really help and guide you, Mr. It's interesting, not the people whose names I'm mentioning have passed. Shows that we are all growing, I guess. But a lawyer, Anachi, who thankfully I came to even live with him, near him as a neighbor. Unbelievable. He was another one, because my mother was like, Lord, they say that if you don't have a lawyer in your family, you can't read law. And the man stepped in, I was like, no, it can be done.
I'll fill in that gap.
Yes. And he had books. I mean, when we were in the law faculty, there was this book, Graphics and Jandom, 1 and 2. Even the library didn't have enough copies. I had both volumes in my room.
All to yourself.
Exactly, because Anachi gave them to me. So those kind of things, Adom, whose father used to get her set of books for her every year. She will finish her year, she'll just pass it on to me. Wherever you are, thank you so much. I mention your name wherever I talk about my career. So those are the people who help. Then, of course, once you start working, you finish law school, we got to Bella. A very good friend of mine told me, I didn't even know about Benti and Chelechan. My very good friend of mine who knew Mr. Mate, who was one of the founding partners, said, I've spoken to this gentleman, and he says you can go and see Mr. Kojo Benti and discuss that you want to be a pupil there. And that good friend ended up becoming my husband, by the way. But, so he kind of directed my path to Bella. And once again, as we say, the rest is history. We were trained very well. I mean, very, very well. Hands on my heart. I don't think, maybe, be careful I don't get people black, but I don't think there's any other place that trains lawyers the way Bella does.
Auntie Hannah, we'll get into the details of that episode. But
but absolutely.
It's just interesting how, like you said, helpers come along the way. And they've helped at every stage to this
just
very
when
point.
You needed that guidance, that inflection point to make sure you are going on the right path, the person just started. So it is all.
You got a husband as well.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So Auntie Hannah, we'll now delve into your early life, all right? Primary, JSS, SSS, per chance you are probably affiliated to to Presec Legon. I'll mention the name of the school. 8-time champions of the National Science and Maths grade.
Not at all. I really wasn't even a science student at all, so I won't go there.
Okay.
But I do get people who tend to think I belong to a certain very well-known girls' school.
Okay.
But I don't belong there either.
You mentioned the school.
No, I won't mention the school.
I think I have a hint, but...
I grew up in Kuforidia.
Okay.
And, so I attended primary school, Nana Koko Boateng.
All right.
It was called Nana Koko Boateng Experimental School. That was the name then.
Okay.
I'm sure it's something else.
Yeah.
But it's still Nana Koko Boateng. And then from there, I went to my secondary school, one to Upper Sis at Ghana Secondary School.
Okay.
Shout out to them. We are having our 80th anniversary celebration today, actually. So, so Gosa, Deacons, congratulations to all of us. I should be there, but, several other things. And tonight's event keeps, so I'm here.
Yeah.
But I attended one to Upper in Ghana. I was the girls prefect in my sixth form. Wow. And then, of course, from then I came to the University of Ghana, Legon, and I have been here since then.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was a law from the very start at University of Ghana?
Law from the very start,
okay.
Law from the very start.
Okay.
And I took to it like, I thought like this is what I was supposed to be all along, really. And when we were at the law faculty, we read this book. I've never forgotten the title, Law in Aid of Development by T.M. Modibo Okran.
Okay.
And it just opened my eyes to what law is, the opportunities that open to you, the tool that the legal instrument or law
actually is.
And what it enables us to do. Think about it. Is there anything that society has done, any end we have reached that has not been driven by some law, some regulation, some guideline? And this is the skill we are blessed to have and know how to use. And so personally, I think that, it's one of the seminal books that one of our lecturers must have asked us to read, either constitutional law or something. And it really, really just gave me, this is what I want to do.
A good starting perspective for your journey.
Perspective for my journey in law, and it has been,
Auntie Anna, we'll go into the nitty-gritties of the faculty life, all right? I cast my mind back to my journey, and it wasn't smooth all through, all right? I'm sure, I keep saying everyone has, or every law student has their law school journey, their law school story, all right? Some pleasant, some not pleasant. Yeah. What was it like for you? Was it smooth sailing? What? Give us a sense of what the kind of waters you sailed.
No, I do think that legal education is tough, it's stressful. I mean, it is by the very nature of the volume of work you have to do, the reading and everything. And I say it all the time that honestly, even those days, we did it like full time, really. And I know that even now, it's supposed to be full time, I know. But lots of people come to it as a second degree now, and they might be doing something else. So those people have my full respect. We had all our days and time just
and it was still tough.
And it was still very difficult. Of course, we had that extra burden of, what was the word for it? Baptism.
Baptism of fire.
You had to, you had to form the first that selection, so you could actually be in the law faculty, do the first year, and be told you can't continue with law in the second year.
You have to justify your inclusion.
And that was so stressful. And then you go to libraries, the books are not available. The few ones available, people have hid them. I mean, I will never forget the day I went to the library once, and this colleague, this friend of mine, a lady, was sitting in the library, and she was sobbing. I mean, she couldn't find a book. She needed to, and the whole stress of it all just, So the law faculty, but we did get help, and that's what I always say. Help. I mean, sometimes I do think that people think that yes, there's a place for self-reliance, right? But there's nothing that stops you from asking for help and from going out. And there were seniors who had gone through it. Exactly. And when we were in the first year, the law faculty did an excellent thing where they paired us up with some of the seniors to help us as tutorial or mentors. I know I was assigned for a short period to Teddy Sorry.
Wow.
So the Surrey and Co. Yes.
Wow.
So I visited him only twice, so I didn't really make much of the opportunity that was given. And then Eddie Baden as well, who's now a justice of the, I think, Court of Appeal, I believe. So they did that. They helped with that a bit because they clearly acknowledged that there was a need to talk to other people who are ahead of you so that they make sense of it all.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it is tough. It is difficult. And as I said, I was very, very grateful and lucky to have this lady who was a year ahead of me, who actually used to have almost a full set of her books. And once again, I mean, I got to know Efua because I attended Legon Pentecostal Union on campus, and she was a member. So one day, after fellowship meeting, she looked at me and said, "You are the law faculty, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Come to my room." And she took me to her house at Red Cool Flat and practically just cleared her bookshelf at home because she had finished and sent the books to, and that was every year I just followed up and took it for us books, and it was. So I will go into my room and be reading, and I know some friends thought, this girl, she doesn't know what she's about. She's always not in the library.
Did you know you had the library in your room? That's wonderful, Adriana. That's so wonderful. And it's just amazing to know how at such an early stage you had greatness around you. I mean, the names you mentioned, I mean, these are all people who are doing very, very well for themselves. And I just want to say, interestingly, just yesterday, I was speaking to a law student at faculty level now, and this point you mentioned about seeking help, all right? I back in law school had that sense of I have to accomplish it on my own. I have to read this on my own and understand at all costs, all right, without anyone's help. And I learned rather late that I had lots of people around me who I could engage, and so it's a really solid point.
I think it's something that we all need to, and I don't know how to put it. Actually, I think seeking help rather is more, what's the word? It's a wiser thing. Well, I really don't know how to explain it, but I don't think it takes anything away from you. The most important, of course, seek help, but go with your own understanding. Don't just go and, read something and then go and discuss. I've read this, I don't understand, kind of something like that. Seeking help doesn't mean that you are not smart. No, that's not what. In fact, I think it is the smarter way. And, seek help from the right people, of course, So I think that's
very solid point. Very solid point. So we'll move on. All right, you make it through faculty, into Makola as well.
Yes.
Briefly, what was that journey like? The transition.
I think Makola was fun, actually. I enjoyed Makola more than. I think Makola was fun. I do think that when you've gone through the stress during our days, I think we did fewer. I can't immediately recall. My mates might correct me, but I think we did fewer courses when we got to Makola. From the volumes that you would have been used to, like 7 or 6 papers a semester at the faculty, you come to Makola and maybe you are doing 4. I think first year did we do maybe criminal procedure,
civil procedure as well.
Civil procedure. So you do. It just felt less.
It's manageable.
You have the full day. Kind of, So somehow, I don't also know that it was because we're staying at home. Being at home also makes a difference, campus, So maybe the fact that you are home and you are with family, I don't know, but I found faculty a bit more, fun. It was still stressful, but and I guess now you've made your friends, you made your very good friends. You know yourselves.
You have some system working
help.
for you.
Yes, I do think so. That by the time we got there, you kind of knew the ropes and what to do and who to talk to, whose discussion group to join to get stuff like that. So
exactly.
It went so the law and law school. Really, I do think and we used to have these amazing times when we were preparing for exams because we would stay. I always remember those times. I think they were fun for me because we would study. And in the evenings when we are tired, we go and sit. There used to be this hall behind the main lecture hall. There was another hall in the center. We go and sit there in the main hall and just talk generally about things happening in the country. Yes, have this almost like to distress. We just talk about they were amazing times.
Wow.
They were.
Wow.
So yeah, for the law school for me, that was and
good.
I had very good friends who were driving at the time, Audrey and Harriet. If I don't get Harriet, I'll get Audrey, who will take me home.
Yeah, sorted out.
And I was sorted out in the morning. My brother would bring me in the evening, Audrey or Harriet.
Wow.
So it was. I enjoyed the
It was a cool breeze there.
Yeah, I thought so. I grabbed a few prizes to the glory of God. So I think that it worked well.
Congrats, Diana. Congrats. So, Diana, so from law school we transitioned into pupilage. You finally get called to the bar. This is in the year, I believe, 2000.
2000, yeah.
So that makes you 23 years at the bar.
Yes.
Congratulations, Diana.
Unbelievable.
That's unbelievable. That's huge. Congratulations.
Yes.
So yes, you get called to the bar, pupilage. You've hinted of your time at Benty Angel, all right? You were ushered into the hands of the whole Bella organization.
Yeah.
What was it like? I mean, you mentioned that it's one of the best places to have your training at. What are some of those components that you feel should be replicated across board, that every pupil needs to lay hands on?
I think the first thing that Bella had was structure. We think organizations don't just run. Structure is very, very important. Knowing what to expect, knowing who to see for what. Knowing who to take what instructions from, that alone, human beings, we live with structure.
Yeah.
If things are not structured, it's just,
lots of uncertainty.
Yeah. So Bella has structure first and foremost. You went in pupilage, I don't know whether it started during my time, must have, but at that time, there were only three departments, so litigation, corporate, and commercial and property.
All right.
Mr. Lecture leading commercial and property, Mr. Dentiential doing the corporate, and then at that time, Ace wasn't a partner yet. I think when I went in, Ace was senior associate. So my senior associates who trained us were Mr. Izana Nkoma, Mr. Adiachinori Hesse, and then who else? I think Rosa, I'm not sure, Rosa Kutuadi of Senate Chambers. So these were the people, that we had to help us, show us the ropes, encourage you where necessary, and stare at you in a way to say, what the heck were you thinking you were doing when appropriate, But they all made it work together. And another thing at Bella was there was absolutely no discrimination in work that was assigned. I didn't get to know as I spoke to some friends, that when you go to some of the chambers, then there was almost like the ladies were turned into almost paralegal and secretarial stuff. And then it is the guys who do. In Bella, you will be given a criminal case to go to the police station to chase. There was nothing. There was a full expectation that you would deliver. And so you can't help but bring your best self to the table. Exactly. So that's that. And then it is the value of the work, the content of the work. We did amazing work. And I still believe that the team there do amazing work, really. There are some... I remember how surprised I was when a certain company or a certain lawyer got a request to advise on a loan transaction. And they had not done it before, and they sent it to us to advise. So we were advising them at the back, and we were advising the client. And by the time you are doing by your 3-year, 4-year at Bella, the kind of places, the kind of transactions you are working on, those were the things that made the news, So you will be sitting around and
you're part of this.
You are part of this. I mean, that was just something else, and I believe it's still the case. And I'm very grateful that the current partners have maintained that legacy from all intents and purposes, because I work with them still in my role now as head of legal at Tullow. And the quality, the systems, and the standards I believe that they have done excellently. So I'm a proud alumnus.
That's amazing. So Zontiana, as a pupil, all right, what then would be the advice you give a pupil? I know a crop of lawyers just got called to the bar. A number of them have started their pupilage. Some of them are looking to start. What should be the focus of a pupil during that stage?
Seek to learn. Really, seek to learn. And I think that the challenge we've had now, as I said, because lots of people are coming to the law later in life, the desire to reap immediate returns from the time spent in law is spurring people on to either go independent or set up firms too early. I think there's a place for it. There's no there must be a reason why, in fact, law in this sense started as an apprenticeship.
Exactly.
You follow somebody, even from the Middle Temple, Inner Temple, all those people. That is how it started. You stayed at a place, watch how it was done. You must be willing to work hard. I mean, and it takes hard work.
Yeah.
It doesn't take shoddy work and looking to cut corners. I was reading something that, of course, my former ace had put on his Facebook page, I believe, on to the new lawyers who've been called. And I think one of the points he highlighted is this: do this work well. And I think he said something like, if there are 25 cases on a point, read it all. See how you use what you need to use and how you distinguish which one, so that you appear ready and confident. Exactly. And that is what Bella did for us. I will give you an example. So one day, Mr. Bentiencho asked me to we were doing something in telecommunications, right? And the question was, how do you know that something is of public notice? And I'm like, why is this even a research question? Something that is published in the newspaper is public notice. And then, but he was like, but I want you to go beyond that and find why the rationale. Why do we even think that kind of publication? Honestly, I was so upset. I was like, this man gives jobs that just to stress us up. Everybody knows that anything published in the newspaper is public notice. Why do I need to now, But of course, I went and did the reading and did the research, and I found the backing as to why, if I see this in the newspaper, in the enactment, I can say because it's going into this newspaper, even if it has only a small circulation, I should be able to say it is public notice. Those are some of the things, and there are things that we just assume and take for granted, but there is always a rationale. As a colleague says, always be ready for the question 3 steps below. This is my answer, but if I'm asked why, I will be able to answer why. So my whys for all my answers, at least 3 levels down, I should have read and understood the rationale. And that is the kind of, so hard work. And of course, please enjoy it. I do think that sometimes some people have suffered burnout, because too early expectations and all that. I told a friend, a young lady who is just, my daughter's friend who is just reading the law in the faculty, and I said, my dear, please don't expect that the law will pay you and buy you a house in your first 3 years. I can't remember this saying, but there was some quote somewhere that said, your first 3 years you are just running errands. 3 to 5 years, maybe you now know the law.
Exactly.
Now 7 to 10 years, you can expect to make some money.
Exactly.
And she was like, and then we are consoling ourselves that we should study hard and that the money will come immediately we graduate. I said, no, it doesn't take.
It takes a while.
It takes a bit of a while. But if you are patient, and once again to quote what Ace said, if you are patient and you do your work, this profession will take care of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Very well. Yeah. That's how he put it. And I totally agree with it. Do it well and it will take care of you. And what else will I say? Pupilage, how do you approach me? Seek to learn, ask for help, dumb down the expectations, it will come in due course, and enjoy the ride.
Solid advice, Santiana.
Yeah.
Santiana, you did 8 years at Bella. Am I correct?
I think so.
Yes.
Or is it 7 years? I don't remember.
7 to 8 years. Okay. All right.
7 to 8 years.
And
I went in 2007, and I think I left in March 2008. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's about if you put the ends of the years together,
it comes to 8. Okay. About 7. Yeah. All right. So you leave Bella after your 7th year. All right. At that point, did you have a sense of what you wanted your legal career to look like? What informed the decision to leave? What was the strategy?
Yeah. I think what Bella equips you, once again, I didn't mention, is confidence. Right? So at a point, you attend all these meetings and you meet these other people who are calling themselves head of legal. I'm sorry, I sound very arrogant here. Forgive me, guys, but I thought, wow, he is the head of legal. Maybe I should also try. Yeah, so that is what, so you get, because at that time I was a senior associate, had done some very, very, memorable transactions, did work that stretched us. I think the real climax of my work at Bella was leading the team and working to help finance. The bill has been repealed now, but the Home Mortgage Finance Act, which came immediately after the mortgages decree, had come up because we were advising their clients, and we needed to be able to make sure that the lending partners will be able to charge or exercise security over the mortgages. So creating a secondary market for mortgages, almost mortgages as security, not just on the real property, but the interest, that kind of thing. And so that led us to, in order to complete that work, we needed to work with, to pass a law that will allow for that, the creation of that nature of charge, in country. And it involved meeting with journalists, with lawyers, with judges. It was amazing, really, and ended up with us preparing a draft that was then sent to the drafting session of Attorney Generals, and it became law. And so
that's impact.
That was good. It is no longer on the statute book, but it will always be one of the highlights of my career. So and it created that pathway to be able to essentially pool mortgage interest together and have a secondary market. It's almost like what we call REITs. It's not exactly the same thing, but sadly being able to say I have this pool of interest in mortgages that is also a securitable, interest. Right. Yeah.
So that builds. So you built your confidence at that level, and you felt now I can step out and then. All right. Yeah. And so you branch out to the telecoms industry.
Yes.
All right. At the time, it was Airtel Ghana?
No, actually. In fact, I did do a bit of a short hop at Nestle Central in West Africa.
Nestle?
Yes, Nestle Central in West Africa. Very short, for a brief period, because around that I had done my time at Bella for only a year. And went to do my LLM. And I did my LLM in IT and telecommunication, focusing on regulation, regulatory of telecom sector, because we had just done the liberalization of the telecom sector in Ghana. And I thought, this is going to be an area that we just need competition and all that. So I did my LLM in that space. And then when I came back after a few years, there was this opportunity to then join Zain.
So
Zain came in first and acquired Westel. That was, the second national operator at the time. And then from Zain, we moved to Airtel, and then Airtel Tigo. That's when I bowed out after a decade.
So we'll go back to Nestle. We'll go back to Nestle. You left Benty Angel, and then it was Nestle. For how long?
For a very short period. I think it must have been like 3 months or 4 months.
And at that point, the transition from Bella to Nestle, what really was the inspiration behind entering that industry? It's a food industry.
No, I guess as I said, I thought, I really think that I now have the skills and enough knowledge, to be able to head out and, either lead a legal department or support. So initially, I wasn't a head of legal. There was a head of legal, but I was his immediate, assistant kind of thing. So I was a legal manager. It was legal and tax manager. That was actually the title of the role. And so that was a good company, international company. I was always looking out for international companies to work with. Note, it was nothing to do with my LLM in IT and telecommunication, which I was enjoying, by the way, because when I came back, just the way Bella is structured, and because of the scope of work, I then got more telecoms and IT-related kind of work, IP, trademarks, issues directed to me. So I worked in that area for a time. But I thought, Nestle Central in West Africa.
Exactly.
That was what.
And so this LLM in telecommunications was done between 2002 2003.
2002. So I actually left September. It was my birthday. I left September 22nd, 2002. and came back September 22nd or 23rd, 2003, exactly.
Wow.
So I finished, I packed up my stuff and came back. And I thought it was important, really. I had gone on a Chevening scholarship.
Okay.
And you will know that one of the key requirements of the Chevening scholarship is that you should come back home with whatever skill you have acquired to help build your nation.
Right.
And really, my real motivation was, this is a new area. We are liberalizing telecoms. There's going to be opportunities here. There might be things that we could do here. Why don't I go and equip myself and be able to be part of that process? So there was no doubt in my mind at all that I was going to finish that course and I was going to come back home.
So, Auntie Hannah, I mean, the choice of program to do telecoms, right? Yeah. Like you're saying, it was informed by what was happening around.
Scanning what was happening.
Right. And I guess that then should be something that youngsters should probably adopt in the process of...
I do think so. I absolutely think so. At every point in time, our economies are moving. There's a direction towards a certain sector or some area. I don't think you should sit on the fence. Of course, if you have absolutely no interest in, I mean, Warren Buffett is supposed to be the well-known investor, sharp, a sage, but he says he doesn't invest in companies he doesn't understand. So we all have our default settings, if I could put it that way. We could learn, it would be a stretch, but you could learn and do something that doesn't come to you naturally at all.
Right.
But otherwise, yes, it is very, very important to know what is happening and how you can chart your career along those paths. If not mainline, at least fringes. Keep yourself updated, be able to carry a conversation. We call ourselves learned people.
Exactly.
So be able to carry a conversation on a subject, if you find yourself at some dinner, chatting with somebody on the sideline.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's very,
so LLM, telecoms, you find yourself at Nestle for a brief period.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, the transition out of Nestle.
Well, I guess telecom came calling. Yeah, and I thought, this is what I did for my LLM. I thankfully had good work related to that sector in Bella.
Yeah.
But now it is actually to be in the thick of things,
the industry itself. Yes.
So I'm not going to pass this up. And I really, at the time, thought, are you sure? Because I mean, Zain was a new entrant. Who knows what they might do? Would they even stay? You got Nestle Central West Africa, but I thought no. There was still that bit that this is what I had committed to do. So let me just, So at that point, I was just maintaining my integrity and thinking the opportunity has come up. Let me just follow.
And make use of
make use of what the British government had paid for me to learn, to help Ghana with. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the Chevening Scholarship is a wonderful program as well. That's another conversation.
Yeah.
So it's a good program for those who can look into that.
So Auntie Hannah, so you find yourself in the telecom industry now. All right. You've clearly stated that your time at Bella was very useful to your time at the telecoms, within the telecoms industry, all right? Lots of things you picked up there were useful to you. After telecoms, you make a transition again.
Major transition,
all right.
After a decade, I thought I had saved my time.
So you did 10 years in the telecom industry. I'd probably call you a telecoms guru. But I mean, telecoms guru, you make a huge transition into the energy space.
Yeah.
The petroleum space, upstream space to be precise. What happened there? What happened there? Was it that you were bored at a point, or you felt you had accomplished it all? Because I've spoken to someone who said that after 2 years, she feels bored. She feels like she's accomplished it all in the field where she is, and so she needs to move somewhere else for a fresh challenge. Was that your case?
Not too much of that, but that wouldn't be the larger part of it.
Okay.
There's a bit of that, but it isn't the larger part of it. As you said, I mean, 10 years in telecommunications, we did quite a few things with the National Communication Authority. Mobile number portability regulations and guidelines, SIM registration guidelines, infrastructure sharing guidelines. I think that for a large number of the regulatory framework that we developed in telecommunications during that period, it's something that I participated in, and I'm very glad, through the time of, Honorable Idrisu Harina. I mean, there was quite a number of
generations
people.
of
Yes. We did a good work with a lot of them, and so I did think at some point that 10 years after, when I was reaching that end of the decade, I spent time thinking. I thought, actually, my thinking was that I was going to just take a break and think about what I want to do next. I've always been slightly interested in the bench. And once again, remember, law in aid of development, judgments, decisions, and how they can direct society. So I thought, might this be an area that maybe I should consider? So let's just take a pause, sit back and think about what next I want to do. And then, Tullow came calling. I mean, to put it simply, that's what it was. I mean, we are looking for this role. Would you want to put your heart into the ring? These were the exact words that the person who mentioned the opportunity used. Do you want to throw your heart into the ring? I threw my heart into the ring thinking, well, this is so far out. And then, I got nabbed there. So, yeah. But you see, I think it sat very well with me because once again, I thought this is a nascent industry. This is another area that we are just entering that is going to be developed. Why don't I get in there and see what role I could play?
Again, so scanning around.
Same kind of, the same fundamental drive where things are happening and where I think I could contribute, even if I wouldn't be the lead in it, I could contribute to make a change, fundamentally to our own country. I've always desired, honestly, when I was young, I remember my earliest time watching an Olympics, one of those Olympics, must have been maybe 8 or 10 years, sitting in my mother's hall in Agbozo in Koforidua. And then I see these people who climb the podium and then they play their national anthem, and I feel so emotional. Oh God, when will I do something like that and they will play my country's national anthem? It wasn't the sports, but the fact that you do something that causes your nation to be lifted up on that stage, you know. So yes, in our own small ways, I mean, I try to do what I can. I'm fundamentally Ghanaian.
That's wonderful, Auntie Anna. So Auntie Anna, with these transitions, right? There's a question I'd want to pose. Okay, how do you warm up to the roles? Okay, so you leave Bella to Nestle to telecoms industry at Zain, all right? Obviously, with that transition, because you had some prior exposure to telecoms, you had worked on telecom stuff before. Warming up to the role at Zain was probably a walk in the park, because you already had that background. This major leap to the energy space, upstream space, at the time, the industry was quite young in Ghana, all right? How did you warm up to the role that you were being given? It's a whole different space. It has its own technicalities, its own knowledge base.
You are right. I mean, you see, the good thing, and that's why I always encourage people that if you have done a liberal arts degree and you are not too afraid of reading, I would always recommend law, even if you don't plan to be a lawyer. I think that the legal education equips one with skills. Some skills that just don't come, easily. I'm sure every other space, if you're a science student, it teaches you how to look at facts, appreciate facts, dice it up and all. But and as I said once again, wherever you go, whatever industry we are driving, the underpinning is always going to be some guidelines, some regulation. And the principles you learn or applied in reading a telecommunications statute or guideline, and interpreting it it's the same, it's applicable here. There's of course the technical aspect, but when I entered, I was complaining once. Somebody said, "Hannah, what's your problem?" It's just about digging a hole, and extracting it. And of course, it's not as easy as that, but of course, it's just trying to make it so that you can, realize that what I'm thinking about is how do we set up to drill, how do you make sure you keep it safe and it doesn't become a hazard whilst you've drilled and you are extracting, and then how do you take it out to the market? Those 3 stages, and it's a continuous learning opportunity. I learn every day. I learn, and it's something that I do, and I do think, you said you use it, and especially I don't think I necessarily have arrived. It's always learning, because even in the sector that you are, technology is changing.
Exactly.
Ways of working are changing. Ways of doing things are changing all the time.
Yeah.
And once again, remember that you belong to a community. So I can walk to somebody and say, hey guys, I don't understand this. I'm supposed to advise you on this. I have no clue what you are doing. Sit me down, explain step by step by step. And immediately, once you get that understanding, you know how you can frame the issue with your legal training and bring out the advice. And it is still contracts you are reviewing and reading. So, there's always going to be the technical knowledge. There are the experts there. Don't, seek to become an overnight expert. Learn, let those who know teach you, and then apply your expertise also to the facts that you have been given. And I think so far it's been working.
So far, so good, eh?
Yes, I think
How many years at Tullow so far?
Actually, this November will be my 5th anniversary.
Wow.
Actually, it's in a week's time. Come to think of it, November 15th. I joined Tullow November 15th. 2018.
That happens to be my mom's birthday.
Oh, wow.
Double celebration.
Yes, that would be my
So Auntie Hannah, I mean, I'm tempted to ask, so what next after Tullow? But I'll leave that question for maybe a part 2 of our conversation, or a part 3, you never know. But let's delve into graduate studies a while. You did the LLM, Telecoms Law. I know you did an MBA as well at Colorado State University at a certain point in time. What's your take on a lawyer pursuing graduate studies? What should inform the decision, the choice or program to do? This also comes against the background of an observation I've made, where lawyers go out and LLM, probably in telecoms like you did, they come back home and there's no ready job available for them to apply that specific skill that they went to acquire. And so you wonder, was it a waste? What's your take? What's your take on that whole bit of choosing?
Jeffrey, no learning is a waste. Absolutely. I mean, no learning. So let's just start from that, ground.
Basic conclusion.
No learning at all is a waste. You might not be using it now, but I am sure that if you did the course yourself, which most of us do, and did it well, it has equipped you with skills that are translatable to other areas, even if you don't find yourself doing exactly what you are doing now. But let's come back to the thrust of your question, postgraduate studies after law. I do think it depends on what you want to do. How do I put it? Let me just talk about my situation. Then maybe somebody will pick something out of it. I just, at some point, just think you should learn. I actually did, at some point you do this personality test, and then I just realized, yes, I'm a learner. So there are some of us that just love, every few years you want to do something,
acquire some new knowledge.
to stretch yourself, keep your brains, said that the neurons or whatever, fire them up, that kind of thing. And it could be anything. It could be the LLM or MBA like some of us have done, or it could be just any other skill. These days, learn another language, learn, coding. I mean, anything else, So I do think that there is room for postgraduate, education for a lawyer, depending, and especially if you want to go into academia and be respected. Surely that's the path. You can't. So there is absolutely. I will recommend it, but I think it's important for people to understand what they are doing, why they. So I will, for instance, tell you. So I did my LLM because I told you, this is an area, this is a new sector, sector. Let me go and do. And at Tullow Ghana, at some point, I realized, I'm now settled in this job. I understand. Do you know what actually prompted me to go and do an MBA?
What?
I had free data.
So you wanted to put it to use?
This data that I have.
Wow, Auntie Hannah.
What do I do with it? So I went, started scoring. What can I do? And of course, I had 2 young kids, but I want to do something with this because people tell me, hey, data, how expensive data is. And I'm in this telecom company, I had it free. So I said, no, I have to do something. Yes. So I went and found this MBA option in Colorado State that allow you to do a bit online, and then you could also come to campus, almost like a sandwich program. And it was amazing. Do you know what they used to do? They would record the lectures, and every week I would get my CDs in a pack delivered by DHL to me. By the time I was in my final year, because American universities, MBA is 2 years. 2 years, yeah. By the time internet had become reliable enough that if you wanted to log into the live class, you could. But yeah, so that really was why I did it. And then available data first and foremost. And then of course you go into meetings. I was a management team member. Not just doing law, you are now leading a business, and it's important for you to understand
the figures.
It wasn't even the figures primarily, but strategy, how to run a business, and
that knowledge will come in handy.
MBA really comes up very handy inside. So that was the prompt. So I did it.
Wow. Wow, it's interesting because in all you are saying, one can tease out how to specialize in an area, how to figure out what to actually do. It's like a giant salad bowl with so much knowledge in it, and it's amazing.
Absolutely, I think that our life and other people's experiences have so much to teach us, and sometimes the problem we have is that we lose flexibility. We start out and decide in those days when he said, I don't even want to law or something, or
is it that
this or that. People, we really get ourselves into this very fixed place, and we are thinking that if that doesn't happen, then my life is even not worth living. I think that's the problem. We should. Well, I'm still quite young, but I do think that for what I have studied and all, the people who have advanced and done so much in life are the people who've been managed to study the environment, study the blow, the breeze, the direction of the breeze, the wind, and be able to read it and say, this is what I think I should do in the life.
Bend towards this.
Bend towards it, rather than standing straight and being broken.
Yeah.
And that is not about being too pliable or compromising. I'm not talking about integrity and matters like that. I'm talking about direction for life and not being too stuck in a particular way, and being flexible and take the opportunities that come.
Yeah.
I do think that, especially if you are a Christian, I want to put it this way, all these things that come across our life are God's own way, the stepping stones to lead us to his ultimate purpose for our life.
Yeah.
So let's not discount it, take advantage of it, and before you know it, you are there, you are in that space.
Wow, Anya, last theme I want us to tackle really is work-life balance. At the start, you mentioned that you have four lovely children.
Yeah.
How have you struck the balance? Because obviously, you're being a full-time mother, as well as a full-time Associate General Counsel of Tullow PLC, Head of Legal of Tullow Ghana Ltd. It has its own demands. You're also being a full-time wife as well.
Full-time wife, that's a funny way of putting it. I'm not sure there are any part-time wives, but hey, maybe
full-time wife. How have you balanced it? I mean, all these varying demands. Sometimes calling for demands are simultaneous. How have you journeyed through that?
I'll go back to my comments about health. I mean, throughout the time I had young children, I mean, we are blessed in our environment here, right? If you don't have your mother, an auntie, or a cousin, or even if you don't have any relation, you might be able to get some paid help to support. It is not the same in other countries. So I think in a way, we have it good, at least but the fact that it is available, right? Of course, some people have had very bad experiences, with getting help and all, but thankfully I've been quite fortunate. So my mom will typically come over once I've given birth. In fact, I'll be so free, I don't know what to do. I'll go back and take my office laptop and start responding to things there. my former boss, Ethel, please don't let me forget Philip Soa. So one day I respond to Philip's email. He's like, hey, aren't you supposed to be on maternity? What is wrong with these new mothers these days, But yeah, so my mom will come in and really help, typically by after 6 months, even 9 months of the child goes to nursery. She literally will pack up her life and then come and help me. And of course, I had my husband as well to support me. And I think he's a lawyer as well. Wow. So together we shared the burden. And it's very, very important for people to understand that. I'm afraid if you are somebody who is going to go traditional and as for me, I'm a man, I don't do that. I think that would be a challenge. So that for me had worked out very well, and that's how we managed, shared the burden, worked together, supported each other, and then of course my mom coming in to help periodically. And I think I've been blessed. It all worked out. It all worked out very well.
And the sky still remains the limit as well for you. It's wonderful.
Yes. So long as we have life, we should every day. There's something for us to do. And I keep telling. I think recently, maybe I still even have it as my WhatsApp tagline that ordinary work is also ordained by God. Yeah, it's very, very important for all of us to understand.
Work is also ordained by God.
Whether you are doing your washing, whether you are taking care of someone, ordinary work done is ordained by God. Do it to His glory, and He will take it to wherever He wants it to get.
We couldn't have ended this conversation on a better note. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I do hope your listeners picked up something.
I picked up something. I hope they did as well.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome, Tiana. So thank you all for joining us. It's been a very insightful conversation. Look out for subsequent episodes. And again, we're here at Dawa Dawa, so do pass through when you have time. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. For subsequent episodes, subscribe to All the Way Up podcast by Jeffrey Mensah on YouTube and all podcast platforms.